Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're looking at a really interesting approach to funding social programs in First Nations communities.
It's a model that's gaining a lot of attention. It really flips the script on traditional approaches.
Exactly. And you know how much I love when things get shaken up a bit. So we're diving into this article from Canada's National Observer, Climate News. It's called Raising the Health and Clean Energy Bar on First Nations, published just a few days ago on October 29th, 2024. It focuses on this thing called the Raven Indigenous Outcome Fund. Have you heard of this before?
I have, and it's doing some really innovative work. The article does a great job of laying out the challenges that First Nations communities often face, when
Right.
it comes to accessing funding for things like housing or clean energy projects or even just basic infrastructure.
Right, because those big federal programs, they're meant to cover everyone, but they don't always take into account the specific needs of different communities.
That's exactly it. It's that one-size-fits-all approach that often falls short.
Yeah, like trying to use a hammer to fix everything. Sometimes you need a screwdriver or a wrench, right?
A perfect analogy. And that's where the Raven Indigenous Outcome Fund comes in. It takes a completely different approach, one that puts communities in the driver's seat.
I love that. So instead of being told what they need, they get to decide for themselves.
Exactly. They get to define their own priorities and come up with solutions that actually work for their specific context.
The article tells this amazing story about Nora Murdoch. She's from the Fisher River Cree Nation in Manitoba, and she used to rely on wood burning for heat, which, as you can imagine in a Manitoba winter, could be pretty brutal.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But thanks to this fund, Nora was able to switch to geothermal heating, and it's made a world of difference in her life.
That's a fantastic example of how this fund can lead to real, tangible improvements. And not just for individuals, but for entire communities.
So how does this whole outcome-based funding thing actually work? It sounds pretty different from the usual grant process.
It is. It's all about focusing on results rather than just handing out money up front. So, a community identifies a challenge they want to address. They develop a proposal outlining their goals and how they plan to achieve them. And then they work with the Raven Indigenous Outcome Fund to refine their plan and gather the data they need to make a strong case.
So it's like having a team of experts in your corner, helping you navigate the whole process.
Exactly. And once the community has a solid plan in place, they need to find an outcome purchaser, usually a government agency, who's willing to invest in the project.
But here's the interesting part, right? The funding isn't just given all at once.
No, it's released in stages, based on the community achieving specific predefined outcomes.
So it's all about accountability, making sure the money is actually being used to make a real difference.
Exactly. And it incentivizes everyone involved to collaborate and ensure the project's success.
This all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work in practice?
Oh, absolutely. The article highlights a fantastic example, the geothermal project in Peguis and Fisher River First Nations, where Nora lives. They received an initial investment of $5.3 million, which has already grown to $7.9 million, and they've retrofitted 425 homes with geothermal systems.
Wow, that's incredible. So not only are people getting warmer homes, they're also saving money on energy bills.
Exactly, and it gets even better. They've also trained 15 community members in HVAC installation.
Creating jobs and boosting the local economy. Now that's what I call a win-win-win.
It really is. And it demonstrates the potential of this model to create positive ripple effects throughout the community. It's not just about the practical benefits, though. There's also a really important shift in power dynamics happening here.
Right, it's about empowering communities to take control of their own destinies. The article quotes Jeff Sear, one of the founders of the Raven Indigenous Outcome Fund. He talks about moving away from those top-down pan-Canadian programs and putting the power back in the hands of Indigenous people.
I think that's so crucial, recognizing that communities know what's best for themselves.
Yeah, it's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. But in this case, it's more like empower a community to build their own sustainable fishing industry. And you create a legacy for generations to come.
I love that. It's not just about short-term solutions. It's about building long-term capacity and resilience.
The article also talks about how this approach fosters a sense of ownership and pride within the community. Wahikatsta Diamdir, the Strategy and Business Development Director at the fund, describes it as a common-sense approach to solving problems on the ground.
So they're not waiting for someone else to come in and fix things. They're taking matters into their own hands.
Exactly. And they're using the tools and resources that are available to them.
And it sounds like this is just the beginning. The article mentions Amy Tuck from Efficiency Manitoba, who's already talking about expanding the geothermal program to other First Nations.
The potential for growth and impact is huge. And it's not just limited to clean energy. The Raven Indigenous Outcomes Fund is supporting a wide range of initiatives, from food security to housing to education.
It makes you wonder why this approach isn't being used more widely. I mean, imagine if we applied this model to other social challenges, like homelessness or access to healthcare.
It's definitely a model worth exploring further. It's about shifting our mindset from what can we do for them to what can we do together.
I love that. It's about collaboration and partnership, working alongside communities to create real and lasting change.
This whole conversation has been so inspiring. It's a reminder that positive change is happening all around us.
Absolutely. And it's often being driven by communities themselves, who are taking ownership and creating the future they want to see. It's easy to get discouraged, when you're constantly bombarded with bad news. But stories like this, they really give me hope.
Absolutely. It's a breath of fresh air.
It shows that there are people out there who are working hard to make a difference, and they're actually achieving real, tangible results.
It's about finding solutions that work and empowering communities to create the kind of future they want to see.
And the best part is that this model is scalable. The success of the geothermal project and other initiatives funded by the Raven Indigenous Outcomes Fund. It shows that this approach can be replicated and adapted to address a whole range of social challenges.
It really makes you think, why isn't this happening more often?
Right. Imagine the impact we could have if we applied these principles to other areas, like education or healthcare, or even tackling climate change on a broader scale.
The possibilities are endless. It's about moving beyond those traditional funding models and embracing a more collaborative, outcome-oriented approach.
It's about trusting communities and giving them the support they need to succeed.
Well said.
This has been such a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listeners are feeling as inspired as I am.
I know I am. It's stories like these that remind us of the power of human ingenuity and the importance of working together to create a better world.
Before we wrap up, though, we want to hear from you. What are some of the challenges facing your community? And do you think this outcome-based funding model could be a solution? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We always love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Timely Trends and News. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us keep bringing you these important conversations. And don't forget to check out the full article from Canada's National Observer. You can find the link in the episode description below. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.